What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports Match, you guys, with another video. This video, I'm here with my San Francisco 49ers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Preview and prediction, going to be previewing this game and give my prediction for who will win this game. Now, before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. Now, the San Francisco 49ers are coming off of a very good defensive game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They forced 3 turnovers out of Jameis Winston. Although we know Jameis Winston is a turnover machine, they were able to get after him. They sacked him for a couple of times as well. So just a very impressive performance on the defense side of the ball. Now, the offense really wasn't that impressive to me. The offense, I think, is still going to get going once Jimmy Garoppolo fully comes back from his injury. I mean, he came back from his injury, but he's still not himself. So once he starts bouncing back to what he was the season ago before the injury happened and things like that, I think this 49ers offense is going to end up getting rolling. And the Cincinnati Bengals had a very good game versus the Seattle Seahawks at Seattle. They almost pulled off that win. I mean, it was a very good game. Andy Dalton, man. I mean, Andy Dalton just came out of that game guns blazing, man. I think he had over 400 yards. John Ross was catching touchdowns. I mean, it was a very impressive debut from head coach Zach Taylor. That Cincinnati Bengals offense really looked very impressive, man. And Andy Dalton was very impressive as well. Now, a big storyline going into this game at the time I'm recording this video is the status of Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon, it was a couple of reports that say he could end up playing in this game. There's a couple of reports that saying he could end up not playing in this game. So we don't really know the status of Joe Mixon going into this game at the time this video is being recorded. Now, for the San Francisco 49ers, I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, they worked themselves. It's a big reason because of Jimmy Garoppolo and that injury. He hasn't really been the same coming back from that injury. In preseason, he struggled, and last week, I mean, he had an interception, but he threw a touchdown, but it really wasn't that impressive of a performance. 166 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, so it wasn't a great performance in my opinion. But I mean, the running back situation, you got my guy Matt Breida there. You got a couple of injuries to the halfback position, so it looks like Matt Breida is going to be the guy who ends up stepping up and being that #1 guy. And Matt Breida, I mean, this was a guy who was top 5 in the NFL in rushing at one point last season before he started suffering through injuries and things like that. So Matt Breida is a very capable halfback, and not only is he very fast, but he's also a very good pass catcher as well. So Matt Breida is going to be a player to watch in this game as well. You also got George Kittle, who had a very nice game as well. So for the San Francisco 49ers, I'm looking to see what they're able to do on the offensive side of the ball, because this Cincinnati Bengals secondary is pretty solid, at least on paper, led by my guy Jesse Bates and at that safety position. So I mean, this Cincinnati Bengals secondary is really, really talented. So I want to see what Kyle Shanahan is going to be able to cook up against a very solid defense in the Cincinnati Bengals that was able to get pressure on Russell Wilson as well. They got Sam Hubbard, you got Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap. So they have a very underrated defensive line as well. And then for the Cincinnati Bengals, how are they going to be able to game plan versus this very stout pass rushing attack or pass rushing group with, you got Nick Bosa, you got DeForest Buckner, you got D Ford. So they're going to have their hands full. And I mean, the offensive line for Cincinnati, it played a lot better than what I was expecting, considering the fact that they lost 2 of their starters in the offseason. 1 retired and 1 ended up suffering an injury. So if you're Cincinnati in this game, this offensive line is going to have to play absolutely flawless if you're looking at trying to win this game for the Cincinnati Bengals. And they're going to have to give Andy Dalton time to throw as well. And John Ross is also going to have to be able to play good in this game as well, because we don't know the status of Joe Mixon. He could end up playing, he could end up not playing. And I mean, John Ross looked like their best player on the offensive side of the ball last week. And I mean, Tyler Boyd also had a very solid performance as well. So I mean, I'm very interested in seeing how this game ends up going. So looking at my keys to victory, what each of these teams is doing, able to have a chance to win this game. For the 49ers, I need to be able to get pressure on Andy Dalton. This offensive line isn't really good. And I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, they have the guys up front to really get after Andy Dalton and really give him a hard time. So if you're the 49ers, you want to tee off DeForest Buckner, you want to tee off D Ford, you want to get those guys going, Nick Bosa, you want to get those guys going and make sure that those guys get pressure on Andy Dalton. I mean, you don't want to give Andy Dalton a lot of time to throw, let him carve up the defense like what he was doing against Seattle last week. He had a lot of time to throw, and he was making a lot of good decisions, a lot of good passes. So if you're the 49ers, you want to get Andy Dalton, you want to get him getting the ball out quick and things like that, make him force the ball, making him have bad decisions and things like that, because you don't want to give him all day to throw. And last week he was making Seattle's secondary look bad. I mean, the way he was throwing dots. I mean, this dude had a very impressive performance versus the Seattle Seahawks last week. And the next thing they need to do is they need to limit turnovers. I mean, you're on the road in this game, and if you're on the road, you want to limit turnovers. And I mean, specifically since the 49ers, the offense isn't really quite explosive yet, you don't want to give the Cincinnati Bengals extra possessions in a game like this. So if you're the 49ers, you need to limit turnovers. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, what they need to do in order to win this game, they need to be able to protect Andy Dalton. If Andy Dalton is able to get some solid protection in this game and ends up doing what he's doing last week, what he was doing against the Seattle Seahawks, then I think it's going to be a long day for this 49ers defense. Now, this 49ers defense is a lot better than the Seattle Seahawks defense last week, because Seattle was missing a couple of guys. They were missing their first round pick, LJ Collier, and they were missing Ziggy Ansah as well. So the 49ers, they're going to have to be able to get after Andy Dalton. And Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to find a way to protect Andy Dalton, because their offensive line is still quite a big weakness in my opinion. I think it's probably the weakest hole that they have on this team. So they're going to have to be able to address that and get that taken care of in this game, because, I mean, the 49ers have a lot of guys who can cause a lot of chaos and a lot of havoc for the Cincinnati Bengals on the offensive side of the ball. Like I said, DeForest Buckner, you got Nick Bosa there, you got DeFord coming off the edge. I mean, so they have a lot of guys who they have to worry about for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if they're able to protect Andy Dalton and give him time to throw in this game, like what he had versus the Seattle Seahawks, then I think this could be a long day for the 49ers. Now, the last thing they need to do, the Cincinnati Bengals, they need to be able to get the ball to John Ross. Now, John Ross was a big factor in the reason why that game was so close. He scored 2 touchdowns. He had a very breakout game, and I was expecting in this kind of season out of John Ross. Zach Taylor, offensive-minded coach, he said he wants to get John Ross involved in the offense, and he did exactly that. I mean, John Ross had a very impressive performance. I mean, we saw the speed. He also had very good hands as well. He struggled with drops early on in his career the past couple of seasons. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing what John Ross does against the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be interesting seeing who they end up putting on him. Are they going to put Jason Verrett on him? Are they going to put Richard Sherman on him? So it's going to be really interesting, because he's not big. I think he's only like 5'10" or something like that, but he has blazing speed. So they're going to have to be able to get the ball to him. Since we don't know the stats of Joe Mixon, that's pretty much up in the air. So John Ross looks like their best playmaker on the offensive side of the ball for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you're Cincinnati Bengals, you want to try to get John Ross the ball, maybe a couple of bubble screens, take a couple of deep shots at him as well because of that speed. So, I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals, jet sweeps and things like that. If you're Zach Taylor, you just need to find ways to get him the ball, because he looked like their best player on their team last week versus Seattle Seahawks. And like I said, we don't really know the stats of Joe Mixon. We don't know if he's going to be able to play or not. So they're going to have to be able to find ways to get the ball to John Ross, who I think is their best playmaker. They also got Tyler Boyd as well, who had a pretty solid game as well. So now it's time for the moment you guys all been waiting for. Who am I going to choose to win this game? And it's really interesting. I really like both of these teams. Cincinnati really showed me a lot in that game versus the Seattle Seahawks. And this game is at home, but San Francisco, on paper, I think their team is a lot better than what the Bengals have. The Bengals linebacking core still has to really impress me. Their offensive line is a little bit of a question as well. And then when you look at the 49ers, I mean, their linebacking core looked very good. Secondary looked very good as well. And also at the defensive line as well. Like I said, they got guys who can get after the quarterback. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm interested in seeing if they're going to be able to get going, because they started out the game pretty slow on the offensive side of the ball. And you take out that pick six that they had on the defensive side of the ball, I think they didn't really score a lot of points there. So I'm eager to see how Kyle Shanahan gets his offense going. So the team that I'm going with to win this game, it's really, really tough, man. It's really, really tough. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. This is a big surprise for me, because I think that San Francisco is the better team in this matchup. But I just think the way that the 49ers offense was playing last week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense isn't really that good to me. And the fact that their offense really struggled to put up points, and their defense really did much of the scoring last week is a little bit of a concern to me. And the Cincinnati Bengals defensive line and defense is really solid. So I think the Cincinnati Bengals end up pulling up the upset here, and Cincinnati is at home. I'm going to take the Bengals to win this game. 21-17 is my final prediction for this game. So let me know who you guys think ends up winning this game down in the comment section down below. Also, make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.